Okay, so welcome my dear students. So in the last class, we studied about the data models, the two data models. Number one was hierarchical data model, and the second one was relational data model. So now today we'll be doing network model and entity relationship model. So let us start with this network model. So what is this network model? So this is an extension of hierarchical model, and in this model data is organized more like a graph and are allowed to make more than one parent node. In this database model, data is more related with more relationship and are established in database model. Also, the data is more related, hence accessing the data is also easier and faster. The database model was used to map many-to-many relationship. This was the most widely used data model before relational was introduced. So let us see what do you mean by this. The first one is, this is an extension of hierarchical model, and in this model data is organized more like a graph and are allowed to have more than one parent and the relationships and this database model are more relationships and established in this data model, and also data is more related, hence accessing the data is also faster. This database was used to map many to many relationship. So these two are the main keywords in this network model. So let us see what you mean by this. So your network model ma ke bhaneko thiyo, in the last class we did this what do you call hierarchical model. The hierarchical model ma ke thiyo bhandakheri one parent can have many child and many child can have only one parent. But in this case, in network model ma चाहिँ के छ भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो this is parent, this is what, this is our parent, this is our parent, and parent ma के छ, this parent are having two child, B1 and B2, and B2 is further having the child as C1 and C2, and B2 is having C2 and C3. So if you see here very carefully, so what you see is the child, this child can have in this network model, the child can also have many parents. So in the previous class in hierarchical model, one parent can have many child and many child can have only one parent. But in this case, this one child can have many parents. Suppose in this example, see in this example, see this C2 is a child, and this child is having two different parents. This child is having two different parents. Okay, so that means in network model, one parent can have many child and one child can have many parents, and this follows many to many relationship. This follows many to many relationship, many to many relationship. So what do you mean by this? यसको एउटा example हेरौँ कसो भन्दाखेरि, okay, let me explain you this with an example, many to many relationship. अब many to many relationship मा के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि, suppose for example in a class a teacher teaches many students and teacher teaches many students, and even that means one teacher can have many students, and in another case one student can have many teachers. एउटा टिचरले थुप्रै स्टुडेन्टलाई पढाउँछ अनि एउटा स्टुडेन्टलाई पनि थुप्रै टिचर्सहरूले पढाउँछ. दिस इज नोन एज मेनी टु मेनी रिलेसनसिप. ओके, सपोज अनदर एक्जाम्पल, वान स्टुडेन्ट क्यान टेक मेनी कोर्सेस. एउटा स्टुडेन्टको थुप्रो कोर्सेस हुन्छ. वान स्टुडेन्ट क्यान स्टडी मेनी सब्जेक्ट, एन्ड another hand one subject is studied by many students. So this is known as many to many relationship. So this much in this network model. Okay, now next one is entity relationship model. Entity relationship model, or we can say entity ER model, and this is one of the most important model that is used nowadays, that is used in DBMS, in database management system. An entity can be defined as an object which can be distinguished from other object of the real world. An entity may be physical objects such as car or house, and even such as car service or house sale, etc. For example, the attributes name, customer ID, etc. describe one particular customer in an organization. The set of all entities of the same type is called entity set. A relationship describes here how entities are related to one another. So a relationship can be defined as an association among several entities. Okay, so what do you mean by this? अब सबभन्दा फर्स्टमा हामी यो बुझौँ what is entity. Entity is defined as an object. Okay, real world object. So अब हाम्रो यो रिलेसनशिप मोडलमा चाहिँ के भन्छ भन्दा एन्टिटी रिलेसनशिप मोडलमा, or in this model this entity is referred to a table. टेबलमा के हुन्छ, टेबललाई चाहिँ हामी अब के भन्छौँ, entity. Suppose for example student is an entity. Okay, student is an entity, or customer is an entity. customer चाहिँ एउटा टेबलको नाम भयो. Okay, अब त्यो टेबलको मेनी एट्रिब्युट्स हुन सक्छ, द्याट मिन्स फिल्ड्स. फर एक्जाम्पल कस्टमर नेम, कस्टमर आइडी, एड्रेस, दिस ऑल आर द attributes of an entity customer, Okay, so your entity relationship ma how this customer is related with another, how the customer is related with name, or even in this entity relationship model how one table is related with another table, that means how one entity is related with one entity. Okay, so त्यो चीज हामी यसमा हेर्छौं. Okay, so before going through this entity example and entity relationship example, there are some symbols which represents different types of values, or different types of even. So in this ER relationship model or entity relationship models, there are some notation which is used to represent attributes, entity sets, the relationship between the entity. Okay, so there are some notations, or we can call there are some symbols that is used to represent this entity and the attributes. So let us see these symbols or the notations. So see, the first one is ellipse, represents attribute. This ellipse it represents attributes or fields like customer ID, customer name, that are the attributes or the fields. अब यो जुन तिमीले एलिप्स देख्दैछ त्यो एलिप्सको भित्रपट्टि लेख्छ, यो भित्रपट्टि चाहिँ हामी के लेख्छौं, attributes को namesहरू. And another one is rectangle which represents entity set. This rectangle is which represents the entity set or simply entity. That means it represents the table name. So here inside this we write the table name. Here inside here we write the attributes names. And next one is doubly outlined rectangle represents weak entity set. So about this, what is weak entity set, we'll learn this one in the coming topics. Okay, so another one is diamond represent relationship between two entities. That means यो दुईटा entity or दुईटा table चाहिँ कसरी relate भएको छ त्यो represent चाहिँ कसले गर्छ, this diamond notation or the diamond symbol is used to relate two different entities or two different table. And the last one is line links attribute to entity set and entity set to relationship. अब यो बीचको जुन यो लाइन देख्दैछ त्यो लाइनले चाहिँ entity and field names and even with the relationship मा जोड्ने काम गर्छ. So this is also known as flow lines or connectors also. Okay, so let us see with an example यो ER diagram चाहिँ कसरी बनाउँछ. Okay, or ER model, how this model ER model is represented using these symbols or the notations. So now see, there are two different entities, customer and product. यो कस्टमर भन्ने एउटा एन्टिटी, द्याट मिन्स वान टेबल छ, यो प्रोडक्ट भन्ने अर्को टेबल छ. कस्टमरको देयर आर थ्री डिफ्रेन्ट attributes or three different fields, and in product it has two different attributes or two different fields. कस्टमर को के छ, कस्टमर आईडी, नेम एन्ड एड्रेस. प्रोडक्ट को के छ, प्रोडक्ट आईडी एन्ड नेम. So now how these two tables are interrelated. So we know that customers buys the product. कस्टमरले के किन्छ, प्रोडक्ट किन्छ. अब हामी दोकानमा गयो भने वी आर द कस्टमर, अन्त हामी के किन्छौँ, प्रोडक्ट. ओके, एउटा पेन किन्यो अरे, एउटा बुक किन्यो अरे. सो किन्नु, द्याट मिन्स बाइङ इज मेकिङ द रिलेसनसिप. दिस बाइङ, इट इज मेकिङ द relationship, it is creating the relationship between these two tables. Okay, so by यो जुन रेक्टेंगल छ, यो रेक्टेंगल symbol is used for signifying the relationship. Okay, so यो रेक्टेंगल यो डायमंड शेप को सिम्बल के गर्छ, it is creating a relationship between these two tables. So this symbol is used to signify, or it is used to represent the relationship between the two entities or between the two tables. Okay, so this is how the notations or the symbols are used in entity relationship model. Okay, so this much in our data model. So in the next class we'll start with a new chapter. So thank you this much in our class.